Imagine a country where the map is erasing itself every single day. 138,000 people are waiting for their homes to be swallowed by the ocean, while the world's superpowers are playing a high-stakes chess game over their sinking land. This is the tragic, untold story of Kiribati, the country that's disappearing from the map. Have you ever thought about what would happen if an entire country, a sovereign nation with its own government, banks, and schools, just vanished from the map? I'm not talking about some sci-fi movie or a horror story. This is a harsh reality unfolding right before our eyes. Deep in the heart of the Pacific Ocean lies a small island nation called Kiribati. Today, it's trapped in a lethal struggle where the enemy isn't human, it's the ocean itself. As you're watching this video, this country is slowly losing its battle for survival. The people of Kiribati are watching their homes, their streets, and the graves of their ancestors get swallowed by the rising sea every single day. And the most heartbreaking part? While the world should be stepping up to help, major global powers are just watching, waiting for it to sink so they can seize its vast maritime resources and strategic location. Which country is this, and why is the rest of the world watching it disappear instead of saving it? Let's dive deep into the truth. Is it actually possible for a country to vanish? If you take out your phone right now and open the camera, you probably won't be able to fit your entire city into one frame. But the capital of Kiribati is so small that if you stood there and took a photo, you could capture the entire capital in a single shot. It sounds like a tiny country, maybe even a tourist getaway, but this is a fully sovereign nation. It has its own government, ministries, banks, universities, hospitals, and even an international airport. However, the reality we have captured on film is devastating. According to scientists and the latest data, within our own lifetimes, this country could be wiped off the map forever. Kiribati is located in a part of the Pacific Ocean known as Micronesia. It's about 5,000 kilometers from Australia and 4,600 kilometers from New Zealand. It's so isolated from the rest of the world that if you try to look for it on a map, you might miss it entirely. Yet, did you know that this tiny island nation is one of the 193 member states of the United Nations? A nation scattered like grains of sand. So what is the reality of this country? Kiribati has a total land area of only about 811 square kilometers. Now, if that land were all in one place, it wouldn't seem quite so small. But here's the catch. The land of Kiribati is scattered in fragments across a massive stretch of the Pacific Ocean. Think of it like this. If you were to fill your hand with sand and scatter it across a vast river, that's how this country is spread out. If you want to travel from one island to another, you might have to cover a distance of up to 4,000 kilometers. That distance is equivalent to traveling from Ethiopia all the way to South Africa. The only difference is, you're not traveling over solid ground. You're crossing a vast, dangerous ocean. Because of this extreme fragmentation, Kiribati is the only country in the world that is situated in all four hemispheres of the Earth, north, south, east, and west, all at the same time. Living in a country where days can be different. This unique geography has a direct impact on the daily lives of the people there. You could call it a strange game of time zones. Within the same country, it could be Monday in one part, while just a short distance away, it might still be Sunday. Because of this confusing calendar system, it caused massive chaos for government operations and weekend schedules. Fortunately, in 1995, the government decided to fix this by shifting the international dateline further east. This move made Kiribati the very first country in the world to see the first ray of the sun every single day. But as I mentioned before, this beauty is just a facade. The total land of Kiribati makes up only 1% of its entire maritime territory. The other 99.9% is just pure, vast ocean. Now imagine, for a country where 99% of the territory is water, what does it mean when the sea level continues to rise? The ocean has become their executioner. This tiny nation, which is barely visible on world maps, actually owns a massive maritime territory of 3.5 million square kilometers. But this very wealth of ocean has now become the primary cause of their destruction. As the world warms, glaciers are melting. The melted ice flows into the sea, causing sea levels to rise relentlessly. Faced with this rising water, Kiribati has no mountains, no high ground, and nowhere to hide. The land sits so low that its average height is no more than the height of an average human. When we watch the waves on TV, they look beautiful, but for these innocent people, these waves have become a dance of death. Locals try to build walls along the shore to protect their villages, but the ocean tears through them as if they were nothing more than sandcastles built by children. Today, the reality is that every single day, the sea swallows a little more of their land, and the map of their country is changing every 24 hours. Losing more than just land, the foundation of life. For most of us, climate change is just a headline on the news, a warning from scientists, or a distant fear for the future. But for the people of Kiribati, it is a death sentence that is playing out in front of their eyes every single day. The rest of the world often misses the gravity of this crisis because they see it merely as flooding. But the reality is far more terrifying. Kiribati has no freshwater rivers. The people rely entirely on rainwater. To collect this water, they dig pits in the ground. But as the ocean pushes inland, the rising salt water seeps into these pits, contaminating their only source of clean water. The result? Years of effort to store clean drinking water are ruined in an instant. Furthermore, this salt water penetrates deep into the soil, turning fertile ground into a barren, salty wasteland, making farming nearly impossible. When your basic survival, food and water, is stripped away, the people living on these tiny islands are left with no choice but to flee toward the capital, abandoning their ancestral homes. The ocean has become their executioner. This tiny nation, which is barely visible on world maps, actually owns a massive maritime territory of 3.5 million square kilometers. But this very wealth of ocean has now become the primary cause of their destruction. As the world warms, glaciers are melting. The melted ice flows into the sea, causing sea levels to rise relentlessly. Faced with this rising water, Kiribati has no mountains, no high ground, and nowhere to hide. The land sits so low that its average height is no more than the height of an average human. When we watch the waves on TV, they look beautiful, but for these innocent people, these waves have become a dance of death. Locals try to build walls along the shore to protect their villages, but the ocean tears through them as if they were nothing more than sandcastles built by children. Today, the reality is that every single day, the sea swallows a little more of their land, and the map of their country is changing every 24 hours. Dignified migration. A bitter reality. When there is no land left, where do the people go? This is the biggest and most sensitive political question in Kiribati. The government has framed it as dignified migration. The former president, Untold, believed that they couldn't just sit and wait for the ocean to swallow them whole. His logic was crystal clear. If his people are eventually forced to leave their homes, why not prepare them so they can enter other countries, not as refugees, but as skilled citizens? He initiated a plan to provide the youth with the education and vocational training needed to secure decent jobs in countries like Australia and New Zealand. His argument was that if people possess the right skills, they can live with dignity anywhere in the world. But as I said, this issue isn't as straightforward as it seems. Leaving your entire homeland behind isn't just a government policy, it's an emotional toll that weighs on millions of hearts. A new home in Fiji and a lingering fear. The search for a solution led to a move that shocked the world in 2014. The government of Kiribati purchased a large tract of land in Fiji. It is extremely rare in history for a sovereign nation to buy land in another country just to secure its future existence. There was a calculated strategy behind this purchase. It was a message to the world that Kiribati's existence is genuinely at risk and that they are in desperate need of support. The land is being developed for agriculture to provide food for citizens suffering from droughts and saltwater intrusion on their home islands. In the long run, when their nation is on the brink of total submergence, this land could serve as a permanent refuge for their people. But there is a catch. Moving to Fiji isn't something that happens overnight. The government is currently sending their youth to learn the Fijian language and culture so they can integrate smoothly into society. There are also plans to kickstart trade and farming there. However, not everyone is happy. Many are haunted by the fear that if they leave their own land and identity behind, they will become second-class citizens in Fiji. The mere thought of leaving their culture, their language, and the graves of their ancestors brings tears to the eyes of the elders. Trapped on the islands, the struggle of isolation. Kiribati is home to 138,000 people spread across remote islands. For these residents, the biggest prison isn't a wall, but the vast, terrifying ocean that surrounds them. If someone needs to travel from their home island to the capital, Tarawa, they have to cover a distance of thousands of kilometers across an unforgiving sea. Most people rely on small wooden boats to make this trip, but when the Pacific Ocean decides to show its power, the fate of these small boats is chilling. Often, people simply vanish into the vastness of the ocean. While there are cargo ships that travel between the islands, they have no reliable schedule. Frequently, due to fuel shortages, mechanical failures, or severe weather, these ships are delayed for weeks, sometimes even months. And when the ship doesn't show up, the situation becomes catastrophic. Because the nation relies entirely on imports, supplies vanish from every corner of the country. Everything disappears from the shelves: sugar, cooking oil, salt, baby formula, soap, and even basic matches. With fuel exhausted, island generators shut down down, plunging the entire nation into total darkness. In such conditions, the lives of the sick and expectant mothers are left purely to fate. Amidst these challenges, for a government to manage an entire country from a single center and provide basic healthcare or education to islands thousands of kilometers away has become an impossible struggle. The end of existence and the geopolitical chessboard. So what will be the ultimate end? The day the ocean completely swallows Kiribati and it ceases to exist. What happens to it under international law? Legally, for a country to be recognized, it generally requires 4 things: defined territory, a population, a government, and the capacity to engage with other nations. Think about it. If Kiribati has no land left, will it still hold a seat at the United Nations? Their flag, their identity, will it all be reduced to nothing more than documents in a file? But there is a much more dangerous game at play here. Kiribati's geographic location is highly strategic. It lies in a section of the Pacific Ocean that has become a battlefield for the 2 greatest powers on Earth, China and the United States. The country is positioned right between Hawaii, home to the US Pacific Command, and Australia. Having influence here means monitoring trade and military activity across the entire Pacific Ocean. The irony is that while Kiribati has no significant military or naval power, it has become a major tug-of-war center between China and the US/Australia. China is investing heavily, building airports and ports to establish its presence. Meanwhile, the US and its allies are rushing to open embassies and offering education programs to win over the youth and curb that influence. It is a cruel irony that the very world whose industrial growth and pollution forced this country to the brink of drowning is now fighting over who gets to claim its vast maritime resources and strategic location once it sinks. Kiribati is an innocent victim turned into a chessboard for global powers. And amidst all of this, the people there are suffering the pain of losing not just their land, but their identity and their history forever. Today, we learned that the sinking of a country isn't just a map changing, it is the erasure of an entire culture. So tell me, friends, is this just about climate change? Or is it the negligence of global powers that are watching an entire nation drown just to serve their own interests? If you were in their shoes, would you choose to leave your ancestral land to start over, or would you stay and sink with your homeland? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your voice matters. If this story touched your heart, please share it so the world finally hears the truth about this sinking nation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video with another untold story.